Hello car lovers, so this is my top 5 of the year plus my year-end review. I do this every year now and I just kind of go over things, how the year went and the top 5 cars of the year. In French I do it with Ross on the road, part of that, and the other part I'll do it a normal review of the year. So top 5 cars for 2020 that I tried, and this is kind of like a mixture of either not so much personal favorites, but what I think was excellence that I was driving either technologically or what the customer wants. So in no particular order, the Cadillac CT5V I thought was an incredible vehicle. It really was an incredible step up for GM in terms of just making a stylish, well-built product. The engine was good, the exhaust was good, the driving dynamics were good, the suspension was incredible, the seats were incredible, the steering wheel was incredible. I couldn't find many flaws apart from the fact that it may not have quite that awesome stylish edge that the Europeans have. I'm thinking especially about BMW. However, it does everything else so well and at such a good price. And also I think the dealer, when you go to the dealer, those GM dealers will not let you leave, according to people who have bought GMs that I've spoken to. So I think it's a total winner. It edged the Telluride that I also tried, which has honorable mention, but is not part of the top 5. The Toyota Corolla Hybrid, I did the 2020 and the 2021. Why am I choosing the Toyota Corolla Hybrid? Well, I just think it's incredible that Toyota can make such a good product. It is a technological tour de force. It does about, what, 4 point something liters per 100 kilometers, which is incredible. That's on the city cycle. So here in where I live in Montreal, in Lachine, the borough of Lachine, which has some of the world's shittiest roads, well, the speed limit is 30, which means your average speed is about, what, 20 kilometers an hour, which means you could technically drive around for 5 hours on 4.5 liters of gas, which is incredible. So really an urban cycle champion. And also Toyotas, they're the kind of vehicles where I recommend to people who are not that passionate about vehicles, and every single one of them has been happy. No one has been unhappy of their Toyota Corolla, and often they keep them a long time and they buy other ones down the road. So I mean, it's just a winner. The other vehicle, it's also a Toyota, is the Toyota RAV4. Not necessarily my favorite, it is Ross's favorite, but I have to give it up to the incredible improvement, the focusing in on what the client wants, rock solid reliability, lots of room, quiet, comfortable, a nice kind of chunky SUV styling. I have to admit I had difficulty finding flaws. We also tried the hybrid, which was very good. I can't say anything against that vehicle. It's just damn good. That's all there is to it. My other choice would be the Mazda CX-5, the signature model that I tried, but I think it goes for Mazda across the lineup. Quebecers really like Mazdas, and often I've met people who have bought Mazda CX-5s, returned them at the end of the lease and gotten another one. That is a sure sign of a car that is very good. When customers rebuy the car, I mean, that says everything to me. And I've tried it. Its luxury is unparalleled in the non-premium segment. The quality of the materials, just the general refinement too. There's something about it's charmingly made, meaning when you touch the steering wheel, when you touch the different controls, when you turn the wheel, you feel a lot of care has been put in every aspect of that vehicle. It's not always on the spec sheet that you find value. You find value elsewhere inside the vehicle, and I think the Mazda CX-5 delivers that much more so than its competitors, which is why it's a top 5. The other vehicle, also a Mazda product, was a Mazda 3 hatchback version. I tried it head-to-head with a Toyota Corolla, and although the Toyota Corolla won that, on a personal level, I just cannot get over how I would buy the Mazda 3 in a heartbeat. All right, objectively speaking, if you look at the criteria of most compact sedan and hatchback buyers, I think the Corolla hatchback is the better vehicle. But just in terms of, for myself, driving it every day, it's so high level. Once again, incredible interior, a lot of charm designed into it, a lot of character, a wonderful styling, a daring styling, I should say. And also these smooth, rounded lines that it has, the wonderful driving experience. Some car reviewers have called it a watered-down driving experience. I don't agree with them at all. I mean, it's just a better driving experience. I mean, just because it doesn't take bumps horribly or doesn't have like that exact steering feel, nonetheless, the improvements are such that you have to be blown away by the Mazda 3 hatchback. I think it's wonderful. So those are my top 5 vehicles. Let me know what you think about that. Moving along now about the year-end review of the channel. I'm just going to go run over a few stats now. Currently, I'm at over 8,000 subscribers, which is nearly 2,500 more than I had the same time last year. So there's been a spike in subscribers. For 2020, I had almost 1 million views at an average of slightly over 3 minutes of view. So that's 3 million viewing minutes for a very amateur YouTube channel, which ain't too shabby. The most watched videos, curiously, was a French video I did in 2019, the Hyundai Tucson, which has the most views, followed by the 2020 CHR in English, the Toyota CHR, and the 2020 Acura MDX in English. So those were the top 3 views. Curiously, 4 of the top 10 videos in terms of views had nothing to do with car reviews. There were other things, either a camera review or something else. The times of peak viewership are Saturday and Sunday at around noon. I have an 85% male, 15% female viewership split. 80% of my views come from the 18 to 54-year-old demographic, and nearly 20% of my views come from the boomer demographic. So that's kind of interesting. The top 3 locations in no particular order are the US, Canada, and France. Things I have worked on during 2020, they're not necessarily technological things, but they are little small incremental improvements. So for example, my videos usually follow a slight exterior review, an interior review, engine, and then I go out on the road and test drive it. And in 2019, I said the part that was the least satisfying for me was the test drive. So I began taking a hard look at that with the time constraints I have, and I've begun really making micro cuts. And what I mean by that is often when I'm listening to car reviews, they're usually 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, and there's just a lot of stuff that I don't want to know. I find a lot of car reviewers are now focusing on making the total holistic car review. My shopping on YouTube for cars is really looking at as much videos as I can and trying to get little snippets of relevant information and collating that into like a comprehensive buying experience, if you want. So I've begun shortening that drive. I begin cutting out entire segments of commentary where I find it's not bringing really a plus value. And even to the point where I'm cutting pauses. So for example, when I'm talking, I make pauses like that. Well, when in the drive segment, I will try to cut that out. Or sometimes I'll say things like I'll cut it out. And it's just to make a more quicker viewing experience. I think the viewer can take a lot of information. Often it's not their first video they're watching on the car you're reviewing. So I think if I can get a pace in which the viewer knows that the next point is coming, he won't zone out as fast, because if I'm covering something he or she doesn't care about, well, they can just stick around for 10-15 seconds. I'll be jumping on to the next point, and therefore I think it makes for a better viewing experience. So I spent a lot of time on that. Also, the thing I focus on is to try to make my comments as custom made for what I think the typical buyer of that type of vehicle class wants to hear about. So even if I'm reviewing, for example, the Mazda CX-5, which has wonderful interior appointments and which I think is a top 3 best in class, I will still highlight things that I think the typical buyer does not want about this vehicle. And that's reflected in the sales, right? More people buy RAV4s and CR-Vs than they do Mazda CX-5s. The review has to be adapted to the mainstream, and it may put some passionate car reviewers off, because often passionate car reviewers are at odds with regular buyers of vehicles, which constitute 98% of the market. However, you're just gonna have to, tough luck for you. I'm aiming for the masses because I want my car reviews to be as useful and as relevant as possible. What I am gonna be focused on are little things. So for example, I've watched all those videos on how to make your channel grow, and for the last 2 years, I've been focusing on pushing out relevant content and not focusing a lot outside of that. Just focusing on making a somewhat catchy thumbnail, for example, and putting a relevant title and a little bit in the description, making sure there are relevant tags in the YouTube studio, so that way when people search with keywords, mine will come up. But I haven't really focused on other things. And What has happened is that my channel has become a lot bigger since. I mean, I'm going to be hitting on 10,000 subscribers soon, which is another league, right? At 10,000 subscribers, I am a YouTuber. And it's not just a hobby anymore. I am a YouTuber. Had a lot of problems adapting to that mindset. And I've kind of had like a conversation with Pan, the organizer, and he was telling me, he made very interesting points. He said, Christopher, your videos are good. It's just that maybe they need to be tweaked a little in terms of when you release them. He said, you're releasing them at 3 in the morning. I mean, what is that? And I said, well, does it really make that much of a difference, Pan? And he goes, yeah, that makes a big difference. Now, for those of you who don't know, Pan, the organizer is like probably the premium car detailing YouTube channel like in the world, right? Others that do better tend to be YouTubers who are promoting their brand, but in terms of an independent brand, he's a guy from Canada, Quebec, right? He's number one. And so his insights are very useful in that sense because he's giving me like the big picture look, and he gave me the example. I'll share it with you just to give you an idea, a cue onto his mindset and how intelligent he is. He goes, Christopher, there are plumbers who are the best plumbers in the world. And yet when you type their names on Google, they don't come up because they don't understand how Google works, how the algorithm works. And it's the same thing with YouTube channels, right? So he gave me like these 2 bits of advice. He knows not to overwhelm me with advice because I'm a bit of a slow cooker. I'm one of those old Anglo conservatives there that doesn't change anything. He said, Christopher, why don't you come up with your videos on a regular basis during peak flow and just explain to your viewers in the first 30 seconds what they can expect. I think you'll get a lot of mileage from that. So I have adopted it. So from now on, videos are coming out on Saturday mornings. I may come out with other videos during the week, but on Saturday mornings, no matter what, I'm coming out with a car review. All right? And I've changed the first 30 seconds. This is a recent change I made. Number 2, Ross continues to be the main contributor to my YouTube channel. So how does it work with me and Ross? Well, it started in 2015 where I used to go to his house and review cars because I just wanted to put car reviews out and just really say what I thought about cars and just to see where it went. And Ross kind of like didn't mind. He was already in 1 or 2 or 3 publications. But since that time, my videos have gotten better, and now car makers are expecting Ross to have a YouTube video. And of course, I have a handshake agreement with Ross that as long as I am breathing, that is to say making YouTube videos on YouTube, that I would feature his 2 or 3 of his cars a month on my YouTube channel, and this would ensure that he continues to have access to the car fleet for as long as he wants. Ross is really fixated on that. He likes to have a new car every week. I not so much, which is kind of like okay in that sense. Of course, Ross comes to my house every week now to get his car reviewed. I only wanted 2 or 3, but that's Ross. He's an animal, and he does have a fixation on that. So fine, no problem. Now I have access to the press fleet, but I really want only 1 or 2 cars a month max. Because if I took a car every week, well, that would be 8 car reviews a month, and I simply would not have the time. And of course, for me, a handshake agreement is really an ironclad, written in my own blood commitment, right? That's just my character. That's the way I am. So Ross will continue to have his cars done. He is the main contributor. He's not one of the owners or has anything to do with my YouTube channel, but he is the main contributor and will continue to be so in the foreseeable future. Also, Ross is a friend, right? And friends count. And if I want to do something that I find absolutely boring for a lot of money, well, I'll just do more of what I do in my day job. However, this is a labor of love, if you want, and it's something I enjoy doing. It works my creative juices, and plus I get to see Ross every week, and Ross and I just blab like animals when we see each other, and it's just so pleasant in his company. So that is the nature of our business relationship right there, and will continue to be so as long as it works out for both of us. The goal of this channel, I think it's important to go over what the goal of this channel is, because it's never stopped, but it has evolved a little bit over time. This is about indulging in your passion. If your passion is about cars, this YouTube channel is for you. I don't only want to encourage people to be passionate about cars, but I also want to encourage them to buy cars, especially young people to buy cars. Why would buying cars be so important? Well, it's a net benefit for your life, I think, and it's a net benefit for society. And let me explain both a little bit. So when you're young and you have a car, you automatically develop a sense of making a budget, planning for the unforeseen. Often young people buy used cars, they're prone to break sometimes, and you have to put some money aside. And of course, if you don't, you're going to put on your credit card and then you're going to pay interest. So it really teaches you kind of like the first lessons of life. So that way, when you do eventually move out of your parents' house into an apartment or into a home, you're going to have that mindset to go forward. And I think that's really one of the side benefits. It's an educational. Cars are educational. Cars also makes your life better and the life of those you know better. So, for example, I've seen I work with quite a few young people, and some of them are like a little bit. I don't want to say brain dead, but they're anti-car. However, I've spoken to some who do have cars, young people, and often at the end of the party at night, they give a ride to their green friends back home, right? And when you have a car, it's a way of being generous with others. It's not just charity to be generous with others. You can drive a relative to the airport. You can give a ride to somebody to the hospital who needs it, who'll be taking medication and who won't be able to use their car, or taking public transportation won't be evident. It's a way of helping others. So that's why car ownership is so wonderful. If you have children, you'll be able to take them to activities and waste less time in your life. You'll be able to go see relatives. In fact, often people who don't have cars are often afar from their family. They have no way of getting there. Right? Simply having a car to go see them is wonderful, and it really creates a bond with people, right? You're less likely to be alone. From a society point of view, well, cars are wonderful and they benefit us, and they benefit industry, they benefit your pocket, right? They benefit also as a business. They encourage engineering, they encourage manufacturing, but also, and a lot of people, especially in this province, who are not really have no business training or no math, it also encourages AI, right? That is a field of car that is really exploding. And of course, we don't do any of it here in Quebec, but we used to have cars here, we don't anymore. And this is a field where AI, in terms of the self-driving car, in terms of reading accidents, accident prevention, saving lives. So this is really an industry which flowers. It's been flowering for 100 years now, making our lives better, creating jobs, bringing people together. So really wonderful. And I think with time, cars will electrify, and either with hydrogen or either with just a better battery. And this will happen over years, whether there's government incentives or not. It's just going in that direction. So it will be, not only that, it will be environmentally more friendly. Now, of course, if we have 100 billion people on the planet, I don't think there's a way of being sustainable with that, cars or otherwise. But however, for the present now, it really is something wonderful and to be cherished. And of course, my channel will push that to the max. In fact, that is the mission of my channel. Car ownership equals being responsible, equals being happy, equals being a positive, contributing member of society. All right? People who own cars, they have bills to pay, they've got to get a job, and they contribute to society, right? Necessarily. You can't do it any other way. Also, another thing is, if you're an employer and you're hiring young people, I mean, if I have the CVs and one has a car and the other one doesn't, I mean, the person who has a car, that person is demonstrably has commitments and has made good on commitments, car payments, taking care of it, changing the winter tires. I mean, this is an employee that I would want to have working for me instead of somebody who's never had these kinds of obligations and responsibilities. I mean, it's just a form of responsibility of being an adult. A few comments on the French version, for those of you who do watch the French version. I have Ross on the French version now. I don't think it's very useful for him to have it on the English channel. I'm just not seeing it. When I'm watching it, it's kind of like his English is just not that good, and I just find he has like more. His style is better suited to the traditional French car reviewer clientele, that professional, formal. I don't want to say wooden, but it's like it's that style which in French I find works, and it contrasts well with my style, which is much more rougher around the edges, which is more an Anglophone style. So I think in French that chemistry kind of works, and I've kept him on as a result of that, and he can do it as long as he wants, and I think it just works. Who do I listen to as a car reviewer? I say this every year, and I like to repeat those things, and so because I'm really about spreading the car culture. Well, in no particular order, but I would say that Driven by Tom Volk is the best. I find he's the best car reviewer in the world. It's not what I would do, but in terms of what he does and his personality, I find he's zeroed in on it to the max. It's really good stuff. I mean, every single thing about his car reviews, there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and he kind of like has a Seattle vibe about him. At least he loves cars, unlike some Seattlers, so which is kind of nice. It really has its own energy and his character. I find YouTube is character driven. Also, in no particular order, locally I listen to Motormouth, which I find is the best Canadian car reviewer, period. And also I listen to some local guys such as PRN Test Drive and The Drive Guide. He's a new Canadian that I discovered maybe 2-3 years ago, and I enjoy his reviews. He's got like a bit of a funky accent, and he's more in Western Canada, but nevertheless I appreciate his thoughtful comments also. From an American point of view, I listen to Savage Geese, which he's, once again, I think he's a character, right? He's a Midwest guy. He just, I don't know, him and he has a partner now, I think of the guy called Jack, and I find they complement each other very well. I thought their Acura TLX review was probably one of the best reviews I thought of the year, where they were really arguing about whether the TLX was as good or not as its German counterparts, and I thought they were both very strong in their arguments. I think Jack won that one personally, but I haven't tried the TLX yet, so I'll reserve judgment on that. But nevertheless, it was a great conversation they had. Matt Marin, I just like Matt Marin. He's super hyper enthused, and now he does interior reviews with his wife, which I think is very nice. Steve Hammis is just one of those consummate American professional reviewers that I really enjoy. Doug DeMuro is a character, which I find it's only he could do the review he does, which I kind of like. I like character-driven people. Redline Reviews, I just find is just a high-end professional review. He has, you can tell he just loves cars. Alex on Autos is one of those guys where, do you get the impression that guy, when he does something, he must always do something like hyper exaggeratedly well, like, you know, all the details, and I don't know, I find he's got like a character, right? I listen to a lot of Scotty Kilmer, which isn't really a car reviewer. He's more like a somebody who sees cars as getting you from point A to point B, and you should really buy a secondhand car and save your money and not get nailed on the depreciation and just buy a Toyota or a Honda, right? Or a Toyota, really. That's what he says, which I find is charming, and I just enjoy watching him. For car detailing, I used to watch all kinds of videos, but I've really narrowed it down to 3 now. I listen to Auto Geek. I began listening to Pan the Organizer again. It's really, I think he has like the most dynamic car reviewer channel, because there's new technologies that come out, and he kind of like, his big brain kind of like manages to process the information and just lay it out in a way that's very coherent, and he's just very good at what he does. Ammo NYC, which you can tell, he reminds me of my cousin. This guy, he has the same shape, talks the same way. He's just really every angle possible. I just saw his Grand National review, which I thought was awesome. And also I listen to Auto Geek because I find Auto Geek kind of like almost got me into cars. This channel started as a detailing channel, but I kind of gravitated away from that. And Auto Geek, I just can't stop watching. I forget what his name is, but he's just so good. So those are my thoughts on the year 2020, and I hope you enjoy the car video. By the way, I'm kind of like branching out on Instagram, and I'm kind of like thinking about TikTok, but really I'm really thinking about Instagram and developing that platform so that it kind of like reinforces my YouTube channel. So that's it for 2021. What to expect? Well, I plan on investing big time. My computer's getting old. It still runs very well, and I can even game on it, but it's just that I just have to upgrade every once in a while. That's the way I am. I'd also like to upgrade the camera. I'm looking at the Sony a7 III, also getting a motorized slider, getting a better sound recorder, which will have a more sophisticated recording unit. And what else? That's about it. So I hope you find my reviews useful and interesting. Put comments if you want on tips you may have to improve, things you'd like to see. Of course, I won't change the format. I won't change anything big because this is just the way I am, right? So if I don't take your advice, don't take it personally. And that is it.